Hi, I'm Taylor, and I'm a man, and this is my wife Megan. We're doing the ladies' meeting today.
Surprise! Okay, so today we are gonna see where this goes, but we are gonna start talking about. We wrote down the topic: quit believing for what you don't want. I think that circumstances and people and life will tell you what you should or should not believe, and if you're gonna believe anything, you might as well believe the right thing and not be in fear, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, we have a reference Job. So basically, staying in belief and not fear, and choosing to believe, because basically faith or fear and faith are like, on the opposite ends of the spectrum. You could be one or the other, and it's literally just a choice. So we were going through Job, and Job 3, he had a lot of weird things happen to him. But he gives us a clue because he talks about in Job 3:24. I'll have you read this.
For my groaning comes at the sight of my food, and my cries pour out like water. For what I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet, and I am not at rest, but turmoil comes.
That's it. So, he had a lot of weird stuff and opened the door for the devil because he was terrified and was in so much fear. But he was in fear over his kids. And, don't let that get into... Don't let me saying that right now get you in fear, just by saying that. He was believing so much that he was, had actions behind it. He was making sacrifices for his kids. And he was just, taking on the spirit of fear, right?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, we all have.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you have a symptom and you start Googling everything. And
Yeah, I've done that recently.
Tell them about it, because we like to tell on ourselves.
Well, yeah, how do I start with
It's
that?
a rabbit hole, and
It is. And when you look it up online, it's like you're definitely dying and you're never going to be okay. Any symptom that you look up, it turns into the worst case scenario.
I think I looked up every single thing, and it was everything that results in death starts out with a stomach ache, a headache, and it's this, you might have this terminal illness. It's all it's dumb stuff.
Yeah.
It could be this most subtle symptom, and it has you dying.
Yeah. But I think, we really do have power to make ourselves sick doing that. And I think I've made all the symptoms I dealt with worse by doing that. Because when I choose to think in a different way about it, and when I choose to not accept it, I physically feel better and the symptoms subside. So it's kind of amazing how that works.
Yeah, and sometimes
because it says that that's the case. Right. Life and death are in the power of the tongue.
Oh yeah, wait, I have that reference readily available. Hold on. Proverbs 18:21. This in itself is kind of wild. Here, read it.
Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Then it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord.
I love
That's my favorite part.
Yeah. That in itself is kind of everything.
Yeah.
Death and life are in the power of the tongue. So whatever you say, your life depends on it. And I think that, so...
I haven't been very good at that lately.
No, but so much of our speech is I have this, I have a cold, I have this. I think, or when we sneeze, we say bless you. We've diminished the meaning of things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And really, your words are so powerful.
Yeah, and that Joe Dispenza guy, and a lot of people talk about how your cells will listen to what you say and change according to what you say. So if you say that you're sick, your cells don't know if you are or not, but when you say you are, they take it on as if you are sick. And they've been proving this. It's crazy.
It's science is
Science is proving what the Bible's always said.
Yeah. I had this conversation at dinner with someone because they were talking about manifesting and all these things. And it's the biblical principles that God set up, speaking the world into existence, they they are in operation at all times. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like whether he set this whole world up by speaking it into existence, and so it's, even if you're not using it in a godly way, it's still working. Those principles,
Yeah.
speaking things into existence.
That's why people say manifesting, like the New Age thing, is to manifest.
Yeah, and that can kind
Because
of,
we're made in the image of the Creator, and He spoke everything into existence, and we have that same power.
right.
Yeah.
But that word, I think that is kind of like a little tricky word because it has gotten into like a New Age thing. So like, look, this is the final authority for everything. This is how you don't get off and get weird and get into weird New Age stuff. This is it. The Bible.
Well, it's how you line it up with what is right.
Yeah.
Because it is right.
Okay. So we were talking about that, about like choosing what you believe, and we were going through and the story of David, because you read Psalm 23. Actually, that's pretty good.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
He
verse
was
in the
reading
Bible.
Psalm 23 before we started, and it's really amazing. Go for it.
The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
So that basically says what you should believe. God's going to take care of you no matter what. He doesn't just address like your needs. He addresses what you want, and he takes care of all the enemies, of all the people that have harmed you. He takes care of every aspect of your life, and that's literally the only thing that you need to believe. And I think that, like I started out saying, is everything in our life, especially this day and age, it's like the phone or whatever you pick up, it's all telling you what to think, what to believe, you know?
Yeah. It's trying to program your thoughts and your life.
Yeah, and we were reading about the story of David and how he faced Goliath. And it's really interesting. We're going to read it, but you start to see how everyone tried to tell him how to think, how to believe. And you know what? He didn't take that on at all. He only believed like, hey, this is my God, and this is what he says I can do. And that's literally all I need to know.
Yeah.
So, okay. This is kind of a long passage, but we'll end with this.
We're 20?
Yeah.
1 Samuel 17:20. So David arose early in the morning and left the flock with a keeper and took the supplies and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the circle of the camp while the army was going out in battle array, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines drew up in battle array, army against army. Then David left his baggage in the care of the baggage keeper and ran to the battle line and entered in order to greet his brothers. As he was talking with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine from Gath, named Goliath, was coming up from the army of the Philistines. And he spoke these same words, and David heard them. When all the men of Israel saw the man, they fled from him and were greatly afraid. The men of Israel said, "Have you seen this man who is coming up? Surely he is coming up to defy Israel. And it will be that the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel." Then David spoke to the men who were standing by him, saying, "What will be done for the man who kills this Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should taunt the armies of the living God?"
See, like right there, he's like, who is this guy? He's a giant. Who is anyone or anything that would come up against God himself? Like, why on earth is the entire country, the entire nation of Israel thinking that this guy can come against our God? And he's the only one that's saying this.
You're so hot.
But seriously, okay.
The people answered him in accord with this word, saying, "Thus it will be done for the man who kills him." Now Eliab, his oldest brother, heard when he spoke spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger burned against David, and he said, "Why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your insolence and the wickedness of your heart, for you have come down in order to see the battle." But David,
Wait, I just want to stop you there. That's his own family, like thinking the worst about him. And that's his own family members, his own brothers saying, hey, I know how you think. And I know that you came for the wrong intentions. And I know this about you. And this is not going to work out for you. You know, be careful. The people, the people closest to you can sometimes mean well, but they say bad things.
well, I don't think he was meaning well.
He wasn't meaning well.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
Yeah, you're right. But David said, "What have I done now? Was it not just a question?" Then he turned away from him to another and said the same thing, and the people answered the same thing as before. When the words which David spoke were heard, they told them to Saul, and he sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no man's heart fail on account of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine." Then Saul said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are but a youth, while he has been a warrior from his youth."
there you go. There's like what seemingly is like wisdom, but it was really just fear. And I think that fear sometimes masquerades as wisdom. Like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what he said was seemingly common sense, but when you have a mandate from God, it doesn't really matter what's in your way. It doesn't really matter what your qualifications are, because no one qualifies you except for God himself. Not any man on this earth, not even the king. And what's crazy to me is this shepherd guy, this little young shepherd guy, was listening to the king of Israel and wasn't even fazed by it. Not like, yeah, you know what, you're right. I probably shouldn't do that. I don't really know what I'm doing, and that didn't even faze him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if the president
It's
of
'cause
the
he knew he
United
wasn't
States
God.
told you you probably shouldn't go into that battle, you're just not equipped for it. I myself would probably think, you know what? Maybe he knows something. He probably knows something because he's a warrior. He probably knows something. But he wasn't taking anything. You know?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
keep going.
amazing.
Sorry.
But David said to Saul, "Your servant was tending his father's sheep when a lion or bear came and took a lamb from the flock. I went out after him and attacked him and rescued it from his mouth. And when he rose up against me, I seized him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, since he has taunted the armies of the living God." And David said, "The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, he will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine." And Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Keep going.
Yeah, I mean,
Then Saul clothed David with his garments and put a bronze helmet on his head, and he clothed him with armor. David girded his sword over his armor and tried to walk, for he had not tested them. So David said to Saul, "I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them." And David took them off. He took his stick in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in the shepherd's bag, which he had, even in his pouch, and his sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. Then the Philistine came on and approached David with the shield bearer in front of him. When the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy with a handsome appearance. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine also said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field." Then David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the army of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will deliver you up into my hands, and I will strike you down and remove your head from you. And I will give the dead bodies of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth." It's awesome. "That all the earth may know that there is a God of Israel.
and that all the assembly may know that the Lord does not deliver by sword or by spear, for the battle is
Is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." You want me to keep going?
I think that's
It makes
good.
me emotional because it's like everybody told him he shouldn't do it, and he did it anyway because he knew who he was.
He knew who he was. And you know what? All he did was spend his time, worshiping in the field. Like, seemingly, like, you would think, oh, he's not getting this done. He's not getting that done. Like, we all think he's just sitting there worshiping God. And then in like one day, he kills Goliath, saves all of Israel, this shepherd boy who all his time is spent just worshiping God, not doing anything that seemingly would be like really productive, you know?
I might as well finish it.
Okay.
Then it happened when the Philistine rose and came and drew near to meet David, that David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand into his bag and took from it a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. And the stone sank into his forehead so that he fell on his face to the ground. Thus David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck the Philistine and killed him. But there was no sword in David's hand. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of his sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines as far as the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the slain Philistines lay along the way to Sharaim, even to Gath and Ekron. Should I keep going?
No, I think that's awesome. And then the sons of Israel returned from chasing the Philistines and they plundered their camps. So like it's like we see this in movies, but this really did happen. And like, yeah, everyone that was closest to him or qualified told him what he should or should not believe. But his choosing to believe in what God said he was basically ignited the entire army. And they were able to chase after the Philistines and plunder them. And sometimes I think that we look for someone else to follow. And really, you are the one who has to choose to believe, and everyone else will follow that, you know?
Yeah. I like that it says the sons of Israel returned from chasing the Philistines and plundered their camps. Then David took the Philistines' head and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his weapons in his tent. So he went and got the weapons. And he took his weapons after he killed him. That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was what was important to him while the other guys were plundering all their other stuff.
That would be important to you.
Yeah, it would.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to say about all this?
No, I love that story. It moves me and that's why I like Psalms, is that David tells God who he is to him. Like tells him all the hard things he's going through, but then he's like, but you, God. And then he tells God who he is. And I think that I want to be like that in my life. And it made David powerful. And I think it made God have to show up for him. And I bet God likes it when you tell him what he is to you, you know?
Yeah, you are. He is good. He is absolutely good. He does take care of us. He can't lie. He is true to his word. And he does show up for every single need in your life. And so, yeah, challenge yourself to declare who God is. You know?
Yeah.
All right.
I had fun.
Thanks for tuning in.